evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The Minister of National Security gives an update on a robbery involving workers from the Parliamentary Registration Department. That story straight ahead.
North Abaco MP responds to questions surrounding his absence from the House of Assembly. That story is coming up tonight, straight ahead.
Plus, debate on two important labor bills grinds to a halt.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, weeks before the 2017 general election, armed robbers hit the St. Barnabas Parish, which serves as one of several voters' card distribution centers on New Providence. Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage addressed the matter in the House of Assembly this morning and told parliamentarians that the integrity of the voting process was not compromised. Our Jasmine Brown has the details in this report. Jasmine?
That's right, Christina. Nottage confirmed in the House of Assembly today that there was no police officer stationed at the registration center last night.
From the time that we started registering and distributing voters' cards, Mr. Speaker, we have had police officers manning these facilities to ensure the safety and security of the general public and of the employees of the centers.
Yes.
Last evening, the officer who was supposed to be at the center to provide the safety and security was not there at the time of this incident.
Police say 3 female workers were preparing to leave the parliamentary voters' card distribution outlet just after 8 p.m. Tuesday when 2 men armed with a handgun robbed them of cash and a cell phone before fleeing on foot. Nottage, who was the minister responsible for election, addressed the incident in Parliament today at the request of Fort Charlotte MP Dr. Andre Rollins.
Obviously, it is a very serious matter if, in fact, it is true. There are concerns that it would affect the integrity of the electoral process.
Nottage responded saying only personal items were stolen.
With respect to the integrity of the voting process, at the time of the robbery, all of the voters' cards, it was at the end of the session, and all of the registration paraphernalia was not in the location. It was on its way to the Parliamentary Registrar's Department. So there was no loss of voters' cards or anything of that concern. There was none of the paraphernalia, none of the equipment which are used in the distribution of cards were lost.
He adds that the workers who were held up were traumatized and the center has been relocated to the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium.
The staff will be moved to the Thomas Robinson Sports Center for the distribution of their cards until further notice.
This election cycle has been a challenging one for the Parliamentary Registration Department, which has been the subject of intense scrutiny since its poor handling of the gender equality referendum and the decision to turn away scantily clad voters seeking to register despite sluggish voter registration in recent months. Between 142 and 150,000 people have registered to vote in the upcoming general election. Now, Nottage says he has been in contact with officials from the Royal Bahamas Police Force to ensure an incident like this one never happens again. Reporting from the House of Assembly for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown. Christina.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, North Abaco MP Renardo Curry tops the list of parliamentarians who have missed a significant number of House of Assembly sittings. That according to House attendance records outlined in today's Nassau Guardian. Well, today, Curry is calling those reports surprising. Giorgio Bain has more.
A Nassau Guardian article pointed out that North Abaco MP Renardo Curry has been absent from the House of Assembly over 100 times. But according to Curry, he does regret being absent from the House so many times. Curry called the article that dove into the attendance records of the House of Assembly unfortunate. Out of the 220 possible meetings of the House of Assembly, Curry was absent a total of 102 times. Curry won the North Abaco seat in the 2012 by-election after former Prime Minister Hubert Ingham resigned his seat in Parliament. Following Curry's victory, Prime Minister Perry Christie promised North Abaco residents stellar representation.
A lot of the young people have decided they would support me even more this time than last time. We have other folks that are just coming with me because they see my vision. They had a chance to look it over and study it, and they feel, we have a good plan for North Abaco.
Despite his big plans for his constituency, the North Abaco MP has managed to be missing from Parliament nearly 50% of the time. According to Curry, he did not notice the numbers were so high.
It's unfortunate that, on the eve of an election, they would print such things to try to discredit me and my representation in Abaco. So, yes, they can make a political point out of it, but for me, I believe representation is about understanding what the people really need and getting those things done.
Despite feeling that the article could not come at a worse time, just months away from the general election, Curry said the numbers actually surprised him.
Looking at the numbers, I was a bit surprised myself. I didn't recognize that it would be in 102. So I somewhat disagree with it, but it is what it is. For me, I am a parliamentary secretary placed in the office of the Prime Minister in Abaco. I don't have an appointment here in Nassau, so it's been some of a challenge back and forth. Much of my workload would include me having to do a number of things there. So it would keep me there sometimes more often than I would like to.
According to Curry, he is still considered a backbencher and figured it would be more important to use his influence out in the community. Curry added that traveling back and forth from Abaco to attend House meetings can sometimes prove to be very difficult.
My work on the ground speaks to what we would have done, and not so much of the perception that this newspaper, the newspaper and The Guardian, seek to attribute to me.
As for the attendance records of other members of Parliament, Marco City MP Greg Moss was absent a total of 93 times. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Fox Hill MP Fred Mitchell was absent 69 times. Elizabeth MP Ryan Pinder was absent 58 times, and Minister of Tourism Obi Wilchcombe missed Parliament 48 times. Wilchcombe declined an on-camera interview but asserted that as the Minister of Tourism, he is often required to travel for work, adding the same goes for the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Reporting for our news, I'm Georgia Bain.
Well, the government has decided to wait for recommendations from labor leaders before moving ahead with debate on amendments to the Employment Act and Industrial Relations Act. Some of the country's major employers were reportedly considering wage and hiring freezes in reaction to the controversial reforms outlined in the amendments. Labor and National Insurance Minister Shane Gibson made that announcement in Parliament this morning.
I was scheduled to meet with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation. And after I announced that, the members of the National Congress of Trade Unions and also the Commonwealth of the Bahamas Trade Union Congress also asked to meet with me. And we met with both of them. I had 2 meetings each yesterday where they asked for some additional time in order to for us to consider some amendments that they would like to see to the amendments.
On Monday, Gibson kicked off debate on the legislation, pointing out that it was only brought to Parliament after extensive meetings and consultation with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, as well as other major employers, even to the point where government delayed tabling the legislation to allow employers to do more research on the proposed changes. Today, Gibson said the parties involved have promised to turn those recommendations in by Thursday.
The intention is to come back next week to complete the debate and the passage of that legislation. We just want to look and have full consultation again, even though they looked at them at the tripartite council. We want to give them an additional opportunity to have their concerns addressed.
Gibson insists the amendments are only in the best interest of Bahamian workers, whom he says have been taken advantage of. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Perry Christie again insisting Baha Mar is a go. Christie spoke about the mega resort today after he handed President Graham Davis a temporary certificate of occupancy outside the resort's casino yesterday. He told parliamentarians that with the resort's opening less than a month away, more than 1,000 people have already been hired.
Over 1,000 Bahamians have already been hired at Baha Mar. And by April 21st, that number will grow to a minimum of 1,500 employees.
Christie says he went on to say he is thrilled that his administration has been able to see the resort through to completion after its many ups and downs.
The progress leading up to April 21st phase opening of the Baha Mar Resort is real. The project is abuzz with activity and excitement. New employees are coming in for training. Things are moving forward, all on course, not only for the initial opening on April 21st, but the timely completion of other components of the project.
Still to come on our news, Marvin Dame slams the National Security Minister's response to the murders of 2 teens. Plus, Cable Bahamas working to address service issues. That's coming up when our news returns.